Basically, every car manufacturer will sue somebody on a yearly basis, and they have lawyers typically held on a retainer, so they pay them some money to stay active and have that collaboration process between suing people and being sued. So let's talk about the latest BYD lawsuit and explain what it is and why they feel the need to do this, and also to what is actually a young online gamer. It is very interesting and probably quite difficult to interpret what they see as being a sufficient amount of damage to their brand. So it's quite complex. Let's get into it. Before we start, thank you very much for joining me again, everyone. I've just had a pretty long week. Blood tests and scans, medications, no sleep for days on end, properly ill. And I'm a typical bloke as it is. So if I get anything like a cold, I'm dying, basically. But this time I was properly not well, and I have not had that for years. I always say that I will post videos every day, or at least aim to, but it really is just me making these videos, and I don't make tens of thousands of dollars per month like some other people making these sorts of videos with huge audiences. So I can't just pay someone to make stuff for me at all. I really do put the hours in to do this. So thank you very much for being patient and then deciding to check in again with my video today. That really is appreciated. I will hopefully be back on track for daily videos, but thank you also to the patrons on Patreon, and the members on YouTube, memberships, and all of the subscribers for sticking with me. So what have we got? BYD have again said that they are suing another person, a blogger, for $700,000 US equivalent of. Why would they want to do it? I'm sure a lot of people who watch my videos will have some good thoughts on this, so remember to write that in the comments at the end and let me know what you think. Why might they want to sue a blogger? The Oxford definition, which is not the important definition, of the word defamation is thus: the act of damaging someone's reputation by saying or writing bad or false things about them. But remember that Chinese companies such as BYD may have a slightly different understanding of the word defamation, or simply have different boundaries or parameters or criteria that they would use. So they of course want to appear to be proud enough to defend themselves. Of course they want to set a tone. This will be a part of why they will be wanting to sue this person. They have decided that the person that is writing this stuff is doing it too often, and in the view of BYD it's clearly damaging their brand. That's what they think, and therefore it's worth putting a stop to it, or trying to. We don't know just how they will define within the business when something is or isn't quite defaming or damaging, but it's obviously something which BYD have seen as justification to spend a lot of money and a lot of time defending. They could also be setting the tone as they get more popular. Just letting you know, they will sue you if you do this to them. This is an important thing. Businesses around the world do this. Basically, every manufacturer does this. Every so often there's some sort of lawsuit. BYD have basically become world famous over the past 10 years, and largely in the past 5 years outside of China. And it's actually quite a common practice for new companies as well to sue someone for this sort of thing fairly early on. I have sought advice on this because it's quite a bit of a niche thing. Even if it doesn't go anywhere, they have probably made people think about saying negative things about BYD too much. They don't want to let people just walk all over them publicly. That's my opinion, but I think that's what's going on. But I've done a lot of research, and as always, I try to make sure what I say is either highly evidenced or proven. Did they try to fix the issue first, is a question I wanted to answer. Nobody really knows other than the person being sued and the person suing, and I can't find any evidence of prior attempts at rectification. But most likely they will have compiled a list of videos and comments and asked them to be removed and then threatened legal action. However, we're talking about a place that really does have a different understanding on what is okay and what is not okay. So, for example, the cage homes in China, for example, if you just Google, people are paying the equivalent of 350 British pounds per month to sleep in what is literally a human type of dog cage sitting on top of another cage, on top of another cage. And the building landladies and landlords and property owners have actually got licenses for this. So the authorities know that is exactly what's going on. So you have to ask yourself, do these people who are deciding what is reasonable see things the same as most people, or people at least from the places that are typically watching my videos? So most likely you're watching this from the US, UK, Australia, Norway, for example. Probably not, but that's a question you've got to ask yourself. They might not see things the exact same way you see things. They might be a little bit more bullish, a bit bearish, a bit unsure. This doesn't directly mean anything at all, though, in regards to the company's ability to make great cars and to sell them. I'm just thinking about the psyche of these people, just to try and get some sort of insight into what they might be thinking and why they'd want to take this to court over a gamer online, a person just talking on YouTube or the internet, because it seems pretty trivial, really. It's hard to understand that stuff from afar. We don't really know the details. Nobody really knows the details. But as far as I can see, BYD have shown to be a really good company and has a really long-standing history of producing not just good quality electronics, but high quality, well-designed electronics. Are they being reasonable is another question I wanted to ask. I think so. If after a while you think somebody's not just commenting, but actually targeting you, it makes sense to do something about it, I think. And if this person you feel that is targeting you has a large viewership, then that, I think, serves to make whatever this person says as much more impactful and threatening. So generally, when you have a viewership, the most important thing, I think, is that, in my opinion, you say what you feel, but don't be overtly horrible, of course, but aim to be considerate and nice above all. This just serves as a type of compass for whatever you do or say in front of an audience. And that goes for wherever, you know, whenever you're doing like a TEDx talk or at university, you say things. Don't say things that are necessarily overtly horrible or maybe overtly nice, just crazy. Just be try to be considerate. But even then, that's just a sort of guide. You know, you will still get people that take offense to certain things and think that you're ridiculous and say that you're really, really correct on some things, whatever. So at least you're still being genuine and you've put the time in to be considerate and try and think about what you're doing and saying. Trying to be positive in people's lives rather than just a troll. So at what point then do negative comments to an audience become defamation? Really good question. The law in China will have set its own criteria, as the Australia laws have also done that, and it will most likely not be exactly the same as what a typical person might be thinking. So to actually penalise a person, they will want to see that the actions by the person in question were potentially intended to be negatively impactful and probably incessant or something to that effect. What do you all think about this? At what point do negative comments to an audience become defamation? That's my question to you. So basically, this person who is being sued is a young person that is always talking about BYD in online videos and games and comments. And it seems a bit strange to see this sort of stuff being pulled to the surface. But as we know now, even in places like the UK, there is the CDU, the Counter Disinformation Unit, where basically it's a small group set up by the British government rather quietly, to take complaints by people, higher up people, and working with AI technology to comb through social media platforms to now seek out and eradicate anything that goes against the government's official stance narrative. This was talked about quite a bit, actually, by Dr. John Campbell recently, and the CDU even pulled down videos by doctors and Dr. John Campbell, and have even written to doctors telling them to stop saying things because the government doesn't deem it to be the correct information. So as Dr. John Campbell is saying, it's Orwellian. So basically these days, when we say something or write a comment or say anything on YouTube, it's quite possibly being scanned and may just be removed simply by the local governments or social media platforms. That's quite a standard these days in 2023. So even though this person is an online gamer, they will have obviously They will obviously see this as this person as a threat, and they will have seen everything that they have wrote probably. And it's a tricky world now because things such as the CDU are literally now deciding what is information and, crucially, what is disinformation. If you wind the clock back 10 years ago, this probably wasn't even on the radar for most people. You wouldn't have even thought that could be a thing. But now, even in Australia, companies such as Bunnings, and I think there's another couple of big companies such as Bunnings, have been told to stop using AI face recognition as you walk into the store because it was seen as a violation of human rights and it wasn't on any signs outside of the door. So in Australia, and probably other places, for something to be defamation, it only has to really fulfill 3 criteria. Number 1, it was published to a third person. So literally one other person. Number 2, it's about the person suing or the business. Number 3, it's defamatory. For it to be defamatory, it doesn't have to be true. It just has to have the potential to damage that person's reputation. But there are several defenses that kind of admit defamation, basically. Number 1, if it's an honest opinion, but you have to be able to back this up with some sort of evidence. You can't just say, well, that's my opinion. You'd have to say, what led you to this opinion? Number 2, if it's true, but this has to be proven again with a lot of really good evidence, so that would be very difficult to prove. Number 3, qualified privilege. Number 4, innocent dissemination. Number 5, public interest. 6, triviality. 7, anything else that I can't find. So my point here is that this is a new world that we're kind of living in. It's the information age, and we are quickly losing the ability and freedom to comment on things as we wish. And also, if you didn't know, the World Health Organization has been taking steps to get extra powers over the last few years, but particularly this last couple of years, so that in Europe now you'll need to have a separate passport to travel. The new health passport. And if you think I'm kidding, Google it. It's a pretty big scandal at the minute, and it means that basically they'll know exactly who you are, where you are, and if you've had your jabs, basically. So that's the world we're coming into in 10 or 20 years' time. But that is actually going to be from next year. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button for me so that YouTube know that people are enjoying it, and subscribe for more daily videos about electric vehicles